Introduction. My name is Aurora Estrada, and today I am going to be presenting about my final project for the course MGMT 1202. This final project's title is Looking Back and Looking Forward Presentation and Discussion. There are 5 communication principles. The first one is communication can be intentional or unintentional. This principle can be separated in two concepts. The first one would be intentional communication. Intentional communication is when we consciously think of the words and how we are going to communicate so that we can deliver the message the way we want the receiver to perceive the message. An example of intentional communication is asking for a favor, such as asking to borrow money in a polite manner by saying please and thank you. The intention is clear as it was straightforward, and by carefully choosing to say please and thank you, you intend to make the receiver of the message feel that you are asking nicely and not demanding. On the other hand, is the unintentional communication, to which pertains to communication, whether verbal or nonverbal, that was not purposefully thought of by the sender of the message. An example of this is rolling your eyes unintentionally when a coworker brags about their new house. The second principle is that communication is irreversible. This principle basically means that once we say something that other people can hear or read, like on social media for example, it is impossible to undo or take back. This is why when we say something mean or bad, for example to another person, even if you apologize, the damage has already been done as it has hurt the other person's feelings already. Even you were forgiven, it won't change the fact that you have said hurtful things. The third principle is that it's impossible to not communicate, even if we choose to give someone the silent treatment. For example, that it still sends a message to the receiver that we are upset, which means we are still able to communicate meaning through our actions, if not with words, intentionally or unintentionally. The fourth principle is that communication is unrepeatable. We have to understand that communication is continuous process, and that because it is continuous process, it is bound to change each time, just like the saying, you can't step in the same river twice. For example, what worked with one person at that specific time does not mean it will work again next time you met the same person, due to different factors such as type of relationship, good or bad, time, and others. You might have smiled at the person one time and they smiled back at the next time you tried to smile at them again, the person just rolled their eyes at you. Another example would be offering help to a coworker who happily accepts your help while another coworker refuses you and ignores you. The fifth principle is that communication has content and a relational dimension. Content dimension means that the information being relayed means what it says it means and is a matter-of-fact kind of information. An example would be saying that the sky is blue. The other dimension, which is the rational dimension, pertains to the feelings of the sender and the receiver of the message towards each other. An example would be saying, good for you, to a friend, one in a sarcastic manner and one with a cheerful tone. The transactional model of interpersonal communication explains more accurately what happens when individuals communicate than the linear model because the linear model is not flexible and only goes one way compared to the transactional model. The transactional model captures the concurring complexity of communication between a communicator and another communicator. The transactional communication demonstrates accurately how communication is in real life, which is complex and conditional. For the linear model of communication, an example would be person A telling person B that he had a good day in person while they are riding the train. In the example, person A is the sender, in quotes is the words used by person A, the message is the person had a good day. The channel in this example is the ears of the person B as person B listens to person A. The receiver is person B and the decodes is person B trying to understand the meaning of person A's message. The noise would be background noise of people in the train. You can see from the example how simple linear communication is and machine-like in regards to the flow of the communication. On the other hand, an example of transactional communication would be similar in this kind of situation. Person C asking her younger brother to clean the house. Person C told her younger brother to clean the house in a commanding tone while eyebrows are raised. Person C's brother, who would be receiving this information, hearing Person C's tone and seeing her facial expression, would then be annoyed and would tell Person C that he will not clean the house until you ask him nicely. You can see in the example that both communicators are sending and receiving information simultaneously. The relationship between self-concept, self-esteem, and communication is that depending on your self-esteem, a person will either communicate more or less. For people who have high self-esteem, these people tend to communicate more as they are confident in themselves that they will be listened to compared to people who have low self-esteem. People who have low self-esteem tends to limit how much they communicate because they are scared of their ideas being rejected and not listened to. On the other hand, people can gain a higher self-esteem by exhibiting good communication skills, which can only be honed through continuous communication. This shows that people can have high self-esteem by increasing their communication, therefore improving their communication skills. The relation of a self-esteem, communication, and self-concept is that the better the communication skills of a person, the higher self-esteem they possess, which contributes to a positive self-concept or image as an individual. In the contrary, the poorer the communication skill of a person, the less confident they have, to which impacts their self-esteem and, more importantly, how they see themselves as a person, to which is a negative self-concept. How do the influences on perception affect communication in a specific situation? When someone's perception of himself or herself is positive, this affects their communication as it gives them the confidence they need to improve and be self-assured of their communication skills. A positive example would be like when someone gets praised all the time for being an eloquent person, this person will have a positive self-perception. If this person is given a task to be a speaker, they will gladly take the opportunity as they feel confident from being affirmed by other people. On the negative side is that if someone keeps getting criticized about how they communicate, this person will have low self-esteem. This will in turn affect their person's communication. These persons will be hesitant in communicating as they will feel ashamed because the person will think that they are not good based on the perception of other people that ultimately becomes how they will perceive themselves. Just like a pillow, there is four sides to a situation that we should consider in order to solve conflicts more effectively. It is very common to have work-related disagreements, whether it's with your coworkers or client or the client's families. In this number, I will provide an example of how we can use the pillow method to resolve a work-related conflict using the pillow method. A nursing attendant who is going to be showering a patient asks the nurse to make the patient's bed so that while the patient is in the shower, the bed is ready for the patients to come back to. The nurse agreed to do it, but before the nurse could even start making the patient's bed, the nurse was called to attend to her other patient as this other patient was vomiting. When the nurse attendant came back, the NA noticed that the bed was not done and was upset regarding this. The NA then proceeded to make the bed herself. The NA as well ignored the nurse for the rest of their shift due to this. Position 1 states I am right and you are wrong. I am right to be upset because we had an agreement that you will do the bed, yet you failed to complete this task. Position 2, you are right and I am wrong. You are right that I should not be upset because you were just doing your job. I am wrong because I failed to realize that it was necessary for you to attend the patients that is vomiting because that is your first priority over making a bed. Position 3, both right and both wrong. You were right to prioritize the patients over making the bed. I am right being upset because you did not do the simple task I asked you to do. You are wrong because you could have delegated to another nursing staff that is not busy to make the bed while you attend to your sick patient. I am wrong because I shouldn't have ignored you after the incident and should have approached you to resolve the conflict. Position 4, this issue is not important, as it seems this issue is not worth destroying our work relationship because we are a healthcare team, which means we have to collaborate in order to accomplish tasks. Position 5, there is truth in all perspectives. Looking at the issue in several angles helped me understand the situation better as well as how it could be resolved. I will next time be more understanding of the nurses as they prioritize the patients first, and the nurse Gas agreed to improve her delegation skills and to ask for help when needed to tasks as accomplished on time and in a stealth manner. From all that I have learned in this course, my understanding of the meaning of interpersonal communication has grown, and I feel I have a newfound appreciation for communication. We feel that communication is just something we do normally as humans, in which case we fail to recognize its importance in all aspects of our life, whether that is emotionally, physically, mentally, and socially. Interpersonal communication is essentially a complex, conditional, a concurring, continuous exchange of ideas or information between two or more people that is affected by many factors such as type of relationship, age, time, and others. To summarize everything I have discussed in this presentation, we have covered the different communication principles as per Adler, Rawls, and Prechter 2, close parenthesis 2018, in the book Look, using my own interpretation and understanding of these different principles. We have also discussed the difference between transactional model and linear model of communication, to which we have provided examples of how the transactional model is more accurate in showing how communication unfolds in reality. In this presentation, I also discussed the relationship between communication, self-esteem, and ultimately self-concept. We also tackled in this presentation how influences on the self-perception of a person affect communication in specific situations. I also provided a workplace-related conflict where the pillow method was utilized to resolve. And lastly, I was able to provide my own definition of interpersonal communication using the collective information I have gained from reading the book. Look, thank you for listening.